Hello and welcome to the Master's Voice, the podcast series on Mediabrief.com. I'm your host and friend Pavan Chawla. And on the Master's Voice, this time round, I think I have somebody who's perhaps the youngest master from media marketing advertising, and this wonderful obsession of his. And I don't just say it's an obsession, but it's something like a bit of a mission that he's assimilated inside on great governance, which is why the thing that he leads with is his designation as Managing Director of Governance Now. I need no more introduction after that. The young professional with me is Kailash Adhikari, and I am privileged to fondly address him as Kailash. Kailash, welcome to the Master's Voice on Mediabrief.com.
Thank you so much, Pavanji. I'm very excited to be with you, and since I've known you since a very long time, and it's really a pleasure to be on the Master's Voice on Mediabrief.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the time and doing this on a Sunday.
Nowadays we are work from home, so there's no Sunday, Monday, there's no distinction now.
Thank you very much indeed. Kailash, before we get on to our conversation, allow me to set the context and make an introduction and tell my listeners about you. Here goes. Kailash Adhikari is Managing Director of Sub-Events and Governance Now Media Limited and is responsible for the publication Governance Now and its digital ventures and capacity building seminars. Governance Now enjoys a credible reputation amongst its readers. A double postgraduate in accounting from the London School of Economics, Kailash at age 23 was a Government of India officer working with the Erstwhile Planning Commission of India in the capacity of a Deputy Secretary to the Government of India. He was in the office of Member Dr Narendra Jadhav, handling affairs of Ministry of HRD, Labour and Employment, Social Justice and Empowerment, and also the states of Tamil Nadu, Goa and Bihar. Under the brand Governance Now, Kailash pioneered numerous initiatives which have been recognized by the entire community. Most important being the Governance Now PSU IT Casebook, which was unveiled by the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi. Kailash's visionary talks has him interviewing reputed personalities and is gaining respect and appreciation. Another initiative aimed at providing masterclasses to individuals free of cost, Masterminds, is gaining traction too. Kailash has also spoken at various seminars on topics such as media entrepreneurship and was recently featured amongst the best in the content business by 40 Under 40 Award. So that's the young master I have with me today, Kailash Adhikari.
You were very humble to give me such an introduction, sir.
No, you fully deserve it, and thank you and keep up all the great stuff that you do. So Kailash, the questions that I'd like to really be asking you and the discussion that I'd like to have with you today is about the current space of media marketing and advertising, the shape of the industry, and so much more. So your pet project seems to be Governance Now.
Yes.
And with good reason. You've been doing a lot of interesting things with Governance Now. So why don't you tell us about your passion for Governance Now and why it seems to be the card that you lead with on your sleeve?
So Pavanji, as you said in my introduction, I've been an accounting graduate from the London School of Economics, and post which at the age of 23 I got an opportunity to work for the Government of India in the Erstwhile Planning Commission of India. And Planning Commission of India today, which is Niti Aayog, at that time it was a body which used to frame the 5-year plans of the government, and a lot of focus was given on governance aspect of that particular body. So being from a media family and learning a lot about governance, first-hand experience with the government, I thought that when my stint with the government was over, I thought that why not combine both of them and then start an initiative of some sort, and thus the idea of Governance Now came to mind. The publication was always there because it was a brainchild of my father, Mr. Markand Adhikari, wherein he thought that governments come and go. It is at the end of the day you and me as subject matter which get influenced by the policies which are framed by the government.
Right.
There has to be some kind of report card for the government also. Not the opinion polls which come every 5 years and then people select the government, but actually if a policy is set, let's say Food Security Act or a Manrega or any other policy which is set, naturally it is set with the objective of delivering good to the citizens of the nation. And how well has it done? If a policy has done well, then applaud it. If a policy has not done well, then why? Find out the reason, do a kind of research, and thus, the birth of Governance Now came. And I'm very happy that, In 2020, it has completed a decade. Governance Now has completed a decade. And my association with Governance Now goes back past 5 to 6 years. And when I started joining the Governance Now team, I understood what are the strengths and the merits of Governance Now. That we were a very strong voice when it came to talking about the well-being and the implementation of policies, and the hardcore reach that we had amongst all bureaucracies, as well as the government, the ministries, the public sector undertaking, as well as corporates. So what would be the next, apart from print? Because we know that print, even though it is the second biggest after television as a part of the media industry, but naturally, as we see in the global times, the digital is now taking over. Right. So then I thought that, striding on its strengths, we need to create a particular platform where there could be good deliberations. And that's how the entire series of Governance Now focusing on capacity building seminars started, right from the year 2014-15, wherein we identified certain government policies which required a good long media debate. And then we used to organize day-long conferences, then a lot of deliberation of those conferences were done, white policy paper was circulated, and that became really successful.
Wonderful.
Naturally, the credit not only goes to me, but my entire team. We did about 50 to 60 such seminars in about 5 years' time.
Wow, more than 50 to 60. That's wonderful.
Absolutely.
In fact, I must tell my listeners that at the age of 23, you were a deputy secretary, ranked officer in the Erstwhile Planning Commission of India and the Office of the Member Planning Commission, Dr Narendra Jadhav. That's really wonderful. And then after that stint with Government of India, you steered the group's print arm Governance Now, and you're taking it digital in a big way. So 2 questions next, yes. Kailash. One, after the physical conferences ran out, in terms of the opportunity on physical conferences ran out because of the COVID-19 pandemic lockdowns, what have you been doing on the digital space? And also, how are you now using digital to really take Governance Now to the next level and beyond?
So as I mentioned, in my first answer, that the main aim of Governance Now seminars and as well as capacity building seminars was to do a dialogue. And when the physical, naturally with the unfortunate outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, physical conferences were not possible, we took it digital. And it's been now 4 months that we have done about 6 conferences, and it has opened a new Pandora box for us. In physical conferences, there were certain limitations as to number of events that could be held. But in terms of technology helping us in today's digital age, it's really it's an ocean-wide opportunity. And with that, I also started Visionary Talk series, wherein it's my own series wherein I do certain interviews with certain visionary leaders on topics which are relating to them. So I believe that in the coming time, digital has to be used in a great format. And there are 3 formats that we are using it. First is the governancenow.com, my website, which is now more active than before in today's time. Mm-hmm. Secondly are the conferences which are happening on the digital front through the video conferencing. And third is the Visionary Talk series, which probably it was this particular situation which induced me to start it.
And you had some really nice illustrious names in your leadership talk series.
Yes.
So tell me about them a little bit.
So yes, the idea came along when you thought that, everyone, every individual who is a visionary in their particular industry wants to tell out his stories about how the pandemic has actually affected their business and how do they actually plan to come about. And so I thought that, why not start with a particular series? I opened with Bombay Stock Exchange MD CEO Shri Ashish Kumar Chauhan ji, then Shri Satish Marathe ji, RBI Director, giving a perspective on how the economic situation would look like. Then coming to our own industry, it was a proud privilege to interview Mr. Sam Balsara ji, who's an industry thespian, on how the advertising industry looks post-COVID-19. We have all seen how Q1 was not going so well, and what are the recovery that we see in various categories of media. Then I had the opportunity to interview Prasar Bharati CEO on how Prasar Bharati could get together the epic success of Ramayana and Mahabharata. I interviewed TRI chairman on all the buzz around the NTO 1, NTO 2, the ad cap, as well as the telcos and the TRI tussle. So yeah, it's been a very good journey so far, and I intend to continue it with all gusto, touching upon very relevant governance topics.
You're tuned to The Master's Voice, the podcast series on Mediabrief.com. I'm your host and friend Pavan Chawla, and with me is this really marvelous, stellar young professional, Kailash Adhikari. We'll be back. And we are back. Kailash, you were born to an amazing family and one of the original visionaries in CNS television in India, Markand Bhai Adhikari. You're blessed to have him as your father.
Absolutely.
And then the other Adhikari visionary, unfortunately now the late Gautam Bhai. So with such, I remember what Groucho Marx's son once said. He said, it becomes a bit of a challenge always trying to come out of the shadow of an illustrious parent, because he said that a giant shadow falls a long distance. But you really, London School of Economics and then Governance Now for the last so many years, the Planning Commission, this amazing award from the Brahma Kumari Foundation that you won for your contribution to media. So many wonderful things and visionary talks. So tell me, Kailash, what are the other things you are busy with? What do you drive apart from Governance Now and all the related things that you do? So what else do you drive at the Sri Adhikari brothers?
So Pavanji, along with Governance Now, was looking into the main our entertainment business as well, because that's where our core lies, and understanding and sensing the needs of the current times. I look after our broadcast business along with the excellent team that we have, and also as you all know that, and as our listeners also know, the Sri Adhikari Brothers Group has been the pioneer when it comes to content production. And since the first generation moved into broadcasting, the content side remained little dormant for some time, but now me and my brother Ravi, we are very active and we are very focused to get it back on track.
Quick recap on what are the channels and what are the major businesses, and what do you think is the prospect and promise of the regional market for the media industry?
So currently we know that our group operates 5 channels, at the helm of the affairs being Masti, India's #1 music and youth channel. Since the past decade it's been #1. And then we have a very strong regional offering, starting with Dabang, which is a Bhojpuri channel. And just to remind our listeners that 10 years ago, when there was no Bhojpuri channel, we were the first one, visionaries of that sort. The credit goes to the first generation to actually understand that this would be a very upcoming market in coming times, and that's how Dabang was born. And today now it's one of the leading channels, and it's very good to know the promise of the regional market, which you asked, is that today, other than Dabang, there are 4 channels which have actually increased the market, and still the market is increasing. I researched a particular report where it said that Bhojpuri, the entire broadcast viewing is growing by 143%.
Wonderful.
And so we are very happy that Dabang is there as a formidable choice for its viewers. And along with that, we have Marathi music channel My Boli, which is doing extremely well. It is #1 on the charts since such a long time. And then we have 2 offerings, Dhamal and Dil Lagi, which are specifically for the rural India, for the LC1 markets.
Okay.
So that's how the 5 network pans out, and it looks very promising. It has been very promising, and the future also looks very bright. Regional driving the entire growth story, and Masti enjoying its peak position.
Wonderful. And I'm sure you must be using them very brilliantly, kind of mutually complementing for all your marketing and making sure that when you want to grow your market size and share.
Absolutely.
Because when we'd launched, I'm speaking from my own experience, when I'd launched Sony Entertainment Television with the team in 1995, we realized from a survey of about 8.5 lakh people who were polled literally directly on the ground, because this was 95 and there were no virtual kind of polls and all of that then. And we got to know that 90 to 92% of people get information about new shows and new offerings from the same channel that they've been watching. So when you market your entire regional and LC1 kind of market mix, what is your marketing mix? How do you go about? How much of your budgets or let's say efforts are used on your existing channels, and what is your ATL versus BTL kind of mix in terms of percentage perhaps?
So when it comes to, Masti is a music channel, predominantly runs on music, but still being the expertise of the content that the group has over the past 4 decades, we started a show with Anu Kapoor called The Golden Era with Anu Kapoor. Now, that is a very differentiating factor for Masti, which catch the eyeballs of the viewers. Similarly with Dabang, whenever, since it targets the heartland of Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and Jharkhand, we have a Bhakti Sagar band which we internally produce. Then we have seasonal Chhat Puja specials which we internally produce. And with My Boli, we have certain various elements touching across the culture of Maharashtra and its viewers, such as Filmi Gappa and that. And if I tell you about marketing, yes, different geographies require a different kind of marketing mix. And we have a team, who analyzes each and every situation, each and every opportunity that is there in the market, and thus creatively in-house as much as possible we try to market it, different products.
Right. So how have the Excellent Sub Network regional language offerings been doing? You said that I think they are mostly leading in all their categories so far.
Absolutely.
What's the growth percentage been like overall?
MyBoli, MyBoli in terms of rating, it is more than 100% of its second competitor.
Wow.
So you can just imagine the kind of growth and the reach that it has and the supremacy in that it commands in terms of its ratings. And Dabang, yes, it's amongst the top 3 and 4 of its genre. Being the first entrant into the Bhojpuri market, it enjoys a very formidable position and commanding position amongst all its viewers as well as its clients. So yes, we are very happy with how they have shaped out. We have a very hardworking team which focuses on the right content mix as well as the good strategy that actually at the end of the day yields good results.
Great. So Kailash, we were talking about the Excellent Sub Network regional language offerings and how they're doing. What about an OTT platform?
Not on the cards yet, but you don't know the future. Whenever a good opportunity comes, why not? As in 20 years ago, we were the first to launch an all-comedy channel on TV broadcast, which is Sub TV, which is now ably in the hands of Sony. It's Sony Sub and it's world's most watched humor brand.
Oh yes.
So yes, there will be innovations happening at a group level. As of now, as a part of OTT, launching an own OTT platform, not on the cards yet. But yeah, it can be sometimes in the near future as we see a lot of growth on digital happening. But the focus is also to create good content for other platforms.
Right. If we look at all your channels, there obviously has to be a lot of catch-up content and a lot of original content. So what's the mix like, original, licensed, catch-up, roughly?
So you can say 70-30, 70 is catch-up content, 30 is original content. Because essentially a viewer, when he comes to a music channel, he wants to watch simple plain vanilla music.
Right.
Too much of disturbance between his viewing of music doesn't promise the viewer so well. But yes, at the same time, you need to have something more, extra, as we say, along with music. So yes, as I said, there are shows like The Golden Era with Anu Kapoor, and there's a chat show, a very popular celebrity chat show, Sitare Masti Mein, that we do. So that's for Masti. For Dabang, as I said, along with the Bhojpuri movies, the catch-up content, we have Bhakti Sagar, we have Bahut Khoob by Shailesh Lodha. It's a Kavi Sammelan program. Then there are other shows which are seasonal according to the festivities of the local land. And similarly in the case of MyBoli. So you can say a mix is 70-30.
Wonderful, wonderful. Right, Kailash, from what you do and your network does, let's now go to a slightly bigger picture, okay?
Sure.
In today's extremely trying times, take a long, hard look at the current media scenario. What have been the best and the worst things to have happened in the overall media broadcast and streaming space in the last maybe 3 years?
I wouldn't say 3 years. 3 years is a very short span of time to, judge anything good or bad. I'll take a decade or so.
Okay.
I believe cable TV digitization, right from analog to digitization, was a huge promising opportunity. Great. Which brought in a good amount of investments also in the particular sector. And that's how, transparency for the consumer, broadcaster, as well as the cable TV and the DTH networks also happened.
The addressability.
Addressability, yes. Addressability really took place because at one point of time, even how the industry was with regards to pay TV, that there was no transparency only. How much did the consumer pay to the LCO? How much went to the MSO? How much finally the broadcaster got? Now with the cable TV digitization, and the government also was very active, like 100% to pan it out successfully. I believe that is a great landmark. In terms of streaming, yes, we caught up with the West very well with the Amazon, Netflix and our indigenous homegrown apps such as ZEE5, Alt Balaji, everyone coming up, Disney Plus Hotstar coming up in a big way, Sony Live, being so active, Alt Balaji, Ross now, everyone is doing phenomenally well, and people, finally it's we all do for the consumer. Each and every stakeholder drives his business for the consumer, and consumer is happy in today's time. He has close to 918 channels which he can access to over television. He has radio, digital, he has a lot of OTT content. Apart from just OTT, you have YouTube, you have such amount of promising content there. Mm-hmm. You have now regional OTT apps. Hoichi is doing so well in Bengal, and a lot more regional OTT apps are coming. So as far as the goods go, yes, there has been a lot of goods that has taken place in the streaming, because there is wide variety now, lot number of platforms coming, market is growing. Mm-hmm. Digital, as we all know, ADEX is growing by 30% every year. And even if you count this slowdown, digital has performed better than the other categories of media and entertainment. So that has been the goods, I can say.
But then also tell me about the bad things that have really crippled the Indian media and marketing advertising industry. My words, not yours.
Yeah. I personally, since as far as media and entertainment business goes, as I said, beginning only, that I have been active since the past 2 years. But what I have heard from literature is that naturally NTO has caused some amount of disruption. But at the same time, we can not only just see that it has caused disruption, it has addressed a lot of issues also for the broadcasters. If you see the results, the financial results of all the pay TV broadcasters, it has grown multifold. I mean, after the NTO2, I think now. So yes, it may have caused some bit of disruption for a certain period of time. It also caused to the FTA channels when NTO1 was launched. But then yes, I mean, for any growth to happen further, there are little disruptions that have to be taken in the beginning, but at the end it shall all settle down. And as far as yes, for certain niche channels it has caused a lot of disruption, but that is something now which even the regulator and the broadcasters are fighting it out. But in terms of, the entire market, not only for now, television is close to a $10 billion industry, Indian TV advertising and subscription put together. And at the same time, digital is growing. It's now close to half of television in terms of its size. So I don't see any major misses. It's always been good for these entire stakeholders as well as for the viewers also.
The NTO or the overall space?
Overall. NTO, I said that some people were against it, but
on the NTO, respect your views totally, and if I were to put my question in a slightly different way, not a single consumer asked for this completely meddlesome, all my words, my considered belief after having studied the space and been in it for more than 30 years now. I think the NTO2 has been the worst spanner that has been ever thrown into the works of the Indian media and broadcasting industry. And this spanner has broken both kneecaps of the media and broadcast industry today. Not a single consumer wanted this NTO. It is, I think, a lot of hard kind of regulation. And that too from somebody who was not designated to be a permanent regulator. A guide, a government support arm. That is the way I think every broadcaster is probably expecting the regulator to operate. And this wonderful journalist whom I really look up to, after the Wiki Frames event, she wrote, Vanita Kohli Khandekar, in Business Standard, that it is time perhaps for the regulator to be changed. Today, every viewer, I'm a viewer myself, I used to pay some 550 rupees for about 550 channels from Tata Sky DTH on my DVR. Brilliant service, great choice. Okay, I may not have watched all, but I had the OTS. I could go to any channel, watch it. Okay.
That's how the Indian consumer was. He used to pay a certain sum of money and he used to get number of channels. He never thought that मैं किसके लिए क्या पैसा दे रहा हूँ.
And today what's happening is I pay some $350 and I get maybe less than 1/8 of those channels. And I don't bother too much about the 100 free channels and all of that. So let's face it, the DAS was required because of, in my view, to a large extent, the terrible under-declaration by the distribution spaces. Why is it that all over in the world, every other country, every other content creative broadcast economy leads with subscription revenue, with advertising revenue coming out distant second. But in India, because subscription revenues were so, I remember the first original cable pirate of India, he never used to declare his stuff, and he's a famous man today. No names. So essentially, I've just kind of vented and waxed, I think, on this. But I think the consumers have been shortchanged. Even if you want to go behind, if the regulator wants to hide behind the fact that this is for consumers. So, what is your wish list as a young media promoter for the good of the media and the society it serves?
Media is a very big influencer, I feel.
Right.
And when I started Governance Now, that was a core philosophy at my heart, that be it editorial, be it conferences, or be it any kind of outreach, it should be able to influence our society in a very good way. And even in terms of our broadcast, if you see, and we have been known to produce family content since the past 4 decades, be it on Doordarshan, on Sub TV, a channel which the entire family could watch together, or be it any kind of content that we have churned out after that as well. Masti, Dabang, My Bully, all our channels. So I believe that my responsibility is to very responsibly take the group's legacy ahead, maintain its core value and strength, and saying so, adopt it to the changing times, because change is inevitable.
Absolutely.
And if you don't change with the changing times, you'll be irrelevant. So a fine balance between your values as well as what is running today in today's time. There has to be a good blend, and that will always be my endeavor.
Wonderful. I'm sure you've been watching a lot of international content. It's out of interest, it's out of professional interest and personal interest and liking. So,
personal interest as well.
Do you want to name your all-time favorite internationals?
So I recently watched Suits, which I was extremely glued to, and I learned a lot from it, I can say. Then House of Cards, yes, on Netflix. House of Cards has really taught me a lot. And these are the 2 particular shows that I've really learned a lot from.
And when you say learned a lot from, is it in terms of content production and creating the show and promoting it?
Yes, content production, the entire storytelling, the manner in which the story is paced out, the manner in which the screenplay is there, how it's being shot, and how it hooks the consumer.
Okay. Let's talk about personal priorities, okay? When you were growing up, you were in the lap of the creative broadcast economy. Did you always know that you'd get into media, marketing, advertising?
Absolutely. I since the age of 9 or 10,
okay,
I have been analyzing TRPs. That time we used to have TAM, if you remember.
Oh, yes.
And when we launched Sub TV, every week the TRP report used to come at home. Naturally, I was 10 years old. So I used to analyze, then I used to discuss with Dad on my way, wherever we used to go on my way to school. Sometimes he used to come to drop me, or wherever we are going, I used to discuss कि ये slot पे Sub TV पे ये अच्छा चल रहा है, उसके सामने Star Plus के. So I have always been a media person. My mother is also a very strong media professional. She directed her first Marathi serial Damini, which went on to create records for 1600 episodes.
Wonderful.
So I've had the opportunity and the blessing of both my parents being so visionaries in this field that it had to come on me, and it's not something that because my parents are into media and entertainment that I am into media and entertainment. It's out of my own personal interest. I'm amazed, I'm enamored, I'm attracted, and I'm heavily, deeply, emotionally invested into media and entertainment.
And it shows, and not just media and entertainment, but also you're also invested in society and helping create good for it.
Absolutely. So as I said in the beginning, that Governance Now was an offshoot of what professional experience I had and what family business opportunity I had. Wonderful. So it's a mix of both. It's a media telling about governance, focusing on governance, telling the public at large that focus on governance.
You had also met the Honorable Prime Minister. Yes. What was that about?
So Governance Now had launched a casebook known as India PSU IT Casebook, which actually documented all the real-time case studies of India's public sector enterprises about their digital transformation stories. Wow. When government introduced a Digital India program, we thought that why not document what good work has been done by all the PSUs in digitizing themselves. And we had about 40 to 50 public sector enterprises coming out with their case studies. They contributed to us.
Excellent.
And it was a very, it was a very informative casebook.
Wow.
And which I saw the opportunity to present it to Honorable Prime Minister. And I consider myself very fortunate enough that I was given the opportunity by the Honorable Prime Minister, and it was a very proud moment, not only for me, for my family, but the entire Governance Now team as well as the Shri Adhikari Brothers group, that I could personally meet him and give him the Governance Now India PSU IT district.
Wow. And what did the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi have to say then?
No, he just acknowledged all the efforts. That's all I can say. He just acknowledged all the efforts.
Wonderful. Okay, personal values. If somebody even younger than you comes to you and says, Kailash, I want to work with you, what are the values, skill sets, etc. that are deal breakers if they are not present?
I have a different approach towards it. Even though I lead Governance Now or various other activities of the group, I mean, at the age of 30, I do not feel that I am, or I should be competent enough to judge someone or, just contemplate the fact that whether he or she has certain qualities or not. Mm-hmm. When I meet someone, I would like to see only the passion that they carry to do their work. Mm-hmm. And their sincerity, their passion is something which has to be seen. And I just look at that aspect because I, very morally and ethically don't feel right at this age. I'm a beginner and I don't feel right that I should see elements which I feel are deal breakers. General elements are there. A person should be hardworking, dedicated, should have good knowledge, the passion as I said, but I will always focus on the positives.
Anything else that you think you'd like to share with us?
No, as I said that, I'm an individual who will always strive to carry forward his family legacy in this particular space and give my 100% and give my best to my ability and my capacities. And
are those the attitudes that you've inherited from Dad?
Absolutely. Something which I've inherited from him is to always be humble. Mm-hmm. And that is the biggest element or the attribute which I've learned from him, or the quality which I've learned from him is this humility. Be it whether you are at the top or you're not at the top, always be humble and hardworking and always be focused. Even if it's a very small thing, or even if a mail has to be drafted, you have to give your 100% to it. When you are involved in it, you don't have to think about who you are or what you are. Just focus that you have to do that work very well. Forget who you are.
Wonderful, wonderful. So thank you very much indeed, Kailash. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pavanji. Thank you so much. It was a very enriching conversation, and I hope that all your viewers and listeners of the Master's Voice at Mediabrief.com, they enjoy our today's podcast. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, Pavanji. It's always been a pleasure interacting with you, and good luck to you always, sir.
Thank you ever so much. Kailash Adhikari, my friends, on The Master's Voice on Mediabrief.com, your podcast series that brings you interactions and expert conversations with some of the best experts, stellar professionals in their spaces in media marketing, broadcasting, advertising, digital strategy, content, all of that, and how it all creates the best engagements that empower businesses. Till the next time then, when I come back with yet another master in The Master's Voice on Mediabrief.com, this is your host and friend Pavan Chawla saying stay safe and stay happy. Bye-bye.